Hello and welcome. We are live. We are about to kick off with this week's Lies, Dirty Lies and Statistics. I have with me once again the mysterious Sam, the man that sleeps 2 hours a night, the man that they keep him chained to a wall, they feed him raw meat, and all he eats, he passes on the meat. All he eats is data and statistics. Sam, welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That's what he eats, ladies and gentlemen, raw data and statistics.
Too good. It's ethically sound, at least.
Find me two of those on this planet, mate. Find me two of those on the planet and we'll be rich, rich men. All right, Sam, hit us. Let's start. Strickland and Adesanya. Without further ado, let's get into it.
So probably they seem to be very similar. Kind of a lot of the stats just line up next to each other. As you can see on the right-hand side, we've got their total accuracy across each of the attacking metrics. Adesanya has a slight edge in terms of striking accuracy, with the exception of takedowns, but they don't perform a lot of takedowns. So it's really, all about the striking. Significant strikes. Adesanya's got a 49% accuracy rate compared to Strickland's 41%. But yeah,
I think whilst they're similar when you look at them on paper, I don't think it's any secret. I think that Adesanya is far and away the favorite. I think he's like a 3-1 favorite. But having said that, on that, before I get into it, and I think I'll speak about this more every time we do these breakdowns. Like, I think, was Sterling something similar, like a 3-1 favorite? And and in this fight, Adesanya is something like that, like a 3-1 favorite. Now, with Sterling and O'Malley, I kind of disagree. I don't think that and this I thought before, I thought Sterling would win, but I didn't think he was a 3-1 favorite. I do think that in this case, Adesanya is like a clear 3-1 favorite kind of thing. I just think that what Sean does, Adesanya does better. I'll just give a little kind of brief overview of both fighters, and here we're talking about the striking, so I'm going to focus on the striking. I wrote a few notes down. I think that big thing with Adesanya is his ability to fight at range and to fight at the range that he wants to do. He's got a very clever use of feints. He excels in maintaining a specific range, and that allows him to maximize his reach advantage and to strike effectively without exposing himself to any unnecessary risks. One of the signature things that he does is his hip feints. He employs a subtle hip thrusts it kind of creates an illusion of an impending kick. What he's trying to do is get the reaction to come from the opponent when he feints a kick. Now, he looks for the reaction, how the opponent defends, if the opponent is going to counter. But another thing that's doing, it's overloading your neural system, and that starts to fatigue quite quickly. What he's doing is feinting for the counter with a hip feint and trying to provoke the opponent to initiate punches and kicks. But because he's only feinting, he's only moving his hips very slightly, he's in a great position to counter, like with different strikes and different things that he can do. And that's why I think you see him land the number of significant strikes that he does, because he's at a good distance. He's able to feint and land the shots, and a lot of those shots are leg kicks. He's able to build from the feints as well. So he gets the reactions from the opponents, and and another thing, when he feints with that leg, he's able, mind you, he's fighting at range. This is the first thing I said to you. So his ability to keep the range and fight at range. So when he does his feint, say he's fighting in orthodox, he feints with his right leg, but then sometimes he steps through and throws a left cross. And this buys him even more distance. So he's further away than you think. He feints the kick, he steps through, and now he's throwing a punch from a distance that you at first thought he wasn't going to be able to do. But that's because he was able to build on that feint. Another thing like he's able to do is have adaptability to the style that's in front of him. So if he's fighting, you saw this with Romero, you saw this with Gastelum to an extent, but not as much, and definitely with Vettori, he's able to switch over to southpaw, get outside, and throw throw leg kicks from the southpaw stance. So he's able to exploit how people are standing and what they're doing. He's able to pick those things up. Strickland, he utilizes a solid probing jab, and he's able to both establish his distance and damage people with that. But having said that, he doesn't have the same pop that Israel does. Israel's got pop in his punches, you know. Sean does. He's not pillow fisted, but the way that he's throwing his shots is not with the same. It's not with the same pop that Israel does, and he doesn't have the same length that Israel does to be able to fight at the distance against Israel. I think he'll give a lot of other people problems in that division, but I just think that the way he matches up with Israel, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that Sean has to do to beat Israel is at the same time what's going to go towards Israel's strengths. Jack Slack, I don't know when he said this. I can't remember when he said this. I don't know, but he said, when he said it, just stuck in my head. When Jack Slack said he kind of holds his hands, and listen to Jack Slack, please, people. The guy knows what he's talking about. If at times I say things that he said before, it is because I copied him. Not meaning to, Jack Slack. I have the utmost respect, but I've listened to a lot of your stuff. I read a lot of things. I watch a lot of stuff. And so sometimes some of the stuff you say stays in my head because I like to research from a lot of different things. So I just want to say to people, if you get a chance to listen to Jack Slack, please do. The Weasel's another good one. MMA Guru, please do so. So if you hear something and you go, I listened to them all. If it's about the fighting stuff, I listen to them. If it's about gossip and stuff, I don't. Going back to Sean and what Jack Slack said, he said he holds his hands like Marvin Hagler did, you know, and it's kind of like your hands are at like mid height, like a chest height kind of thing. The only difference is that Marvin Hagler is a lot better boxer and hits a lot harder. What he's able to do, what Strickland does, which not a lot of MMA fighters do, is double up on the jab. He's actually quite good at it. And so if you get into a boxing match, he doubles up on the jab, comes into your space, and he's able to then throw the right hand, and that's when it starts to damage. I just don't see him having the length and the timing to show Israel anything that Israel hasn't seen. He likes to catch the hand and parry with his right hand, and you saw him get caught with a left hook from Alex Pereira. There's not a lot of guys that have the speed or the length that Alex Pereira have to be able to capitalize on that left hook. Adesanya certainly does. The other guy, I think Robert Whittaker, could catch him with that left hook. That's Rob's bread and butter, and he's fast and he blitzes off it. And while he doesn't have the length, he certainly has the speed. But outside of those three guys, Sean's not going to run into a lot of guys that are going to throw that big left hook they're going to be able to capitalize on him parrying with that right hand. Having said that, if people can turn southpaw, throw the straight left hand down the middle, and throw the left kick, kind of the same combination Rob does with his right hand, right high kick, if you can do that with your left, and you catch him either parrying or trying to hold your jab, you're going to catch him. And Israel 100% can do that. The problem for Sean with Israel is that Israel doesn't even have to go southpaw to do that. Israel can throw a left high kick with not much tell from the orthodox stance, as can Alex Pereira. He does have different variations to his jabs as well, Sean. So some people just look at it and they don't understand. He's not just throwing jab, jab, jab. He can throw a jab. He can put a little arc on it. He can come up from like a little kind of like extended uppercut. He's got a lot of different jabs that he can use. His adaptability in his boxing is very, very good. Against Brendan Allen, he was able to box on the front foot and on the back foot. He was even able to use some of his kicks, which I believe he's going to have to use to beat Israel. I don't think he can beat Israel without kicking. You have to kick with the kicker, and that's you have to kick with the kicker for a couple of things, man. One, he has to be doing something with his feet other than kicking the shit out of you. He has to be doing something. So with Israel wants to move, and he wants to put his back to the cage, and he's got great lateral movement. He can fight in the open cage too, but he's got great lateral movement. He can go left, he can go right, and he hits you on the counters of you coming in. So if you can make him check your kicks, move his feet to try and avoid your kicks, he's doing something other than kicking you. So even if you can, so say you kick him a couple of times and Israel will get the read. He's very smart. But if you can keep feinting, and Sean does this, Sean lifts his leg like he's going to kick, because Sean does use the front kick and the calf kick a little bit, but he does use them. He's going to have to use them in this fight. You can see him using that. If he's able to make Israel check his kicks, move his legs away so that he doesn't get kicked, that will stop Israel from kicking him as much as he's going to. And you have to have plan A, B, C, and D for Israel, because he's smart. He's going to adapt. He does change angles in the pocket. He doesn't get hit as much as you would think for someone that's kind of boxing in the pocket. Having said that, he hasn't fought Israel, and when he fought Alex, they were going backwards and forwards, but Alex knocked him out bad. He uses good combinations like the 2 and the 3 and the lead cross left hook against southpaw. So I'm just reading my notes. So he's smart. He's not stupid with how he puts things together. I think that Sean's very smart. He's not dumb. He comes across like a loose cannon and everything, but he doesn't drink. He doesn't party. He knows what this is. He's definitely smarter. I think a lot of people give him flack because you didn't see a takedown against Pereira. There's a couple of things that I will say on this. First of all, that fight didn't evolve, right? It didn't evolve. You didn't see it go to further in the fight, So you couldn't see if he was going to do takedowns or not, And people go, no, he said, I'm going to stand and bang. Yeah, he's going to say that. He wants you to think that he's going to do that. I don't think that fight evolved far enough to see the takedowns from Sean. You need to be able to, especially those guys like that, you need to be able to pressure them and get them up against the cage and try and take them down. But I'll tell you something, the range and the strength and the levers and the hips on guys like Pereira and Israel Adesanya are no fucking joke. You're not just taking them down. And even if you do, you have to hold them down, and they can post with their hands, spread their legs, change their center of gravity in ways that guys that aren't that height can't. And the other thing is, if you do that, if you just go balls to the wall trying to take that guy down and you get tired, you're going to get knocked the fuck out bad, really bad. One of the things that you look at with Pereira, it's the way that he throws that calf kick. He stands square and he's able to throw that with not much tell and keep his stance to be able to counter with punches as well. I'm pretty sure Jack Slack spoke about that in one of his videos, and I watched that and I thought that was fuck. If it wasn't Jack Slack, it was somebody, but I'm fucking almost sure it was Jack Slack. I watched a lot of videos on this actually to be able to get things, but I'm pretty sure it was Jack Slack, and he mentioned that he goes that he throws a combination, throws it from a position where his hips are square, can hit the calf kick, and then he's in a position to throw the left hook. And I think that Sean has similarities in that. I don't know that he's going to be able to throw the kicks, no matter how much he practices. I don't think he's going to be Alex Pereira, but I do think that that's a tactic that he needs to employ, because he needs to get Israel's feet busy. So that's my kind of overview. Sorry to take over there, but I just had to, give my overview of what I thought would happen. And and as far as the grappling, and I have to talk about this, he did show good grappling against Jotko and Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen's a good grappler. Like some of the guys that when he beat Jacob Malkoun, I trained Jacob before as well. And Jacob's grappling is fucking good. It's really, really good. And it's objectively good. Like, we have a measure for him. With the measure for him, he won ADCC trials, Asian ADCC trials. This is no joke. There's good grapplers coming out of this region as well. It's not as big as the ADCC trials in the US or Brazil, but it's still fucking big. And he won it. And Brendan Allen and him got into grappling exchanges, and Brendan Allen more than held his own. Whether or not you think he won the fight, that's a different story. He got the decision, he won the fight, and he did very, very well in those grappling exchanges. And my point to that is Strickland did fine with Brendan Allen. So his grappling's good. I just don't know that the difference in their grappling is enough for him to be able to nullify Israel. So that's my fucking spiel there, Sammy. I don't know if you're asleep or what.
No, I'm awake. I'm here. I think the numbers do show what you're trying to say as well in terms of accuracy and things like that as well. Like, he's got, obviously Adesanya having higher accuracy also shows that he's got efficiency in punches, in movement. He's obviously picking his shots, so he's got a higher accuracy. And then also, if you look on the left-hand side with, conversely, if you look at Strickland on the left, he's got, nearly 2.5 times the number of head strikes landed than Adesanya, and that really shows that jab that he throws out as well. So he's landing with it.
Yeah, I think that the damage that Adesanya does with the leg kicks outweighs what Sean does with the jab, and before we go on, I just want to say hello to everyone that's on the chat. How are you all, guys? Thank you for joining us. I just want to answer a few quick questions. Steve says, "G'day, coach. Do you think Rob could have made this fight? He wasn't medically suspended and wants to fight again in November. I'd kind of like to see the Reaper with his back to the wall." Steve Riley's the megaphone guy. I just want everyone to fucking know that. I don't know, man. I don't know anything about any of those stuff because I don't see why Rob couldn't fight anyone on the planet, to be honest with you. And as far as with his back to the wall, to be honest with you, I don't think his back is to the wall. I think he lost the fight, and I wouldn't fucking put my hand up to fight Rob if I had a gun. So I don't think his back's to the wall. Like, I mean, he's going to fight someone else, and they're not going to cut him. He could lose however many fights. The guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, dude. He could lose 5 fights in a row. He'll be fine. So I don't think his back's to the wall. He's a professional and he's ice cold, so he'll be back. There's not even he'll be back. He fucking hasn't gone anywhere. He just lost the fight. That's the game. Thrillhouse says, "Based Fab." Thank you, sir. I'm assuming that is that's a compliment. I am not used to this vocabulary, but I'm assuming it's a compliment. Kabir says, "Hello, big fan from the old podcast with Rob days." Thank you, Kabir. Thank you to have you on here. Dylan Young says, "Strickland buries kicks, which is worrying." Oh, I think that's a typo, dude. Beetlejuice says these breakdowns are the best. Thank you, Beetlejuice. Lydian, you've champion bloke. Says, "Thank you so much, Lydian." Lydian says, "Wow, Fab Live. It's like 2:15 a.m. here in Arizona. Just got back from a concert. Which advantage is larger? Strickland's over Adesanya in the press conference or Adesanya's over Strickland in the fight?" Man, it's funny you say that because I do think that one of the things that does matter in this fight, and I think that Israel's very good at it anyways. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that you're going to be able to shake Israel like, mentally or whatnot. But one of the things is, can Sean get in there? And probably when we look at some of the volume of striking and that, can Sean get in there and disrupt Israel's planning and timing and mentality by sticking in there? I don't know. I think that the way that Strickland will carry himself in the press conference hopefully will make for good viewing, and it'll be different because generally it's Israel that's running that. you know. So yeah, hit us, Sam. Hit us.
So across all the fights and rounds they've fought in the UFC, Adesanya has approximately a 10% edge in accuracy for total and significant strikes. So the same stuff that we saw before. And a lot of that is comes back to leg strikes as well in comparison to Sean. So even though Sean's looks like he, has 100% accuracy in his leg strikes in rounds 4 and 5, he's just not throwing that many. So when he does throw a couple, he's landing. But yeah, there's really not that many. So.
And I do think it's going to be, like I said earlier, I think that's one of the keys for victories for Sean. And again, I don't like to say, because people go, why don't you just take Adesanya down? Or why don't you just take Pereira down? And I think good luck with that. Good fucking luck. I'm sure. Look, say Rob Wilkinson, who I like. I like him. I've met him, trained with him. I respect him a lot. Rob tried that strategy, and it was very hard, because after he took Israel down, Israel got up. Took Israel down, Israel got up. Took Israel down, Israel got up. And there's only so many times you can do that, So it's very, very difficult to do that. And having said that, why I was going to say this, because Sean, one is he can mix it up with takedowns. I think he should, but he can't go mad. But the leg kicks from Sean, I do believe they have to come into play, because one, it stops Israel from being able to just kick him at will, and hopefully starts to damage Israel to slow him down. It's a fucking tall order, because Israel's a fucking savant for fighting. You have to give him that. Sorry, Sam, go on. If you were saying.
No, I was just going to say, especially since Adesanya does have a 4-inch reach advantage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That slide goes with the next one. Am I correct, Sam?
Yes. Yeah. So for the first 3 rounds, and this is just looking at the average number of punches they land in each round. So for the first 3 rounds, Strickland lands approximately 10 more strikes on average per round. And really that's driven by those head strikes. So sitting behind his jab, strikes at the head and overall strikes from distance. But for the last 2 of the 5 rounds, Strickland dramatically increases the average strikes he landed, almost doubling Adesanya. So whereas Adesanya starts a little bit lower, then increases in the second round, and then kind of drops off a little bit and flattens from rounds 3 to 5, whereas Strickland really increases round on round.
The way I read this, which I'm lucky Sam is here, because he actually reads the data and I kind of just fucking tag along. But the way I see this, and just from watching Israel fight and watching Sean fight, Sean's very good. He just puts the pace on you, keeps going. He gets the reads of you, but he really is pressuring you the whole fight. Adesanya in the first round, he's kind of watching what you're doing as well. He's watching what you're doing, trying to get your reads. Goes back to what I was saying earlier about the feints and the hip feints, and he's trying to gauge your reactions on the feints. He's trying to gauge your speed and your ability. Because even you can do all the research you want, you don't know until you're actually in there with that person and you feel them. So he's able to gauge and understand what everyone's doing, what that person's doing, how they're moving. And then in the second round, once he started to understand you and he's kind of worked you out a little bit and he's got your distance and your timing and how you're reading his feints, he pulls it on you a little bit and does a lot of damage in that round. So what happens, from what I gather, from what I watch it, a lot of the times the first round's a little bit closer with Israel. Sometimes he drops that round. The second round, he wins it. And then usually like the second, third, fourth, he wins 3 rounds. Adesanya is smart. Like he knows, he's like a proper, like a predator, like how mountain lions don't attack fucking big dogs and stuff like that, like mean dogs, because they know they could get hurt. He knows when he's won a fight, and he's not going to go out there and risk more damage or getting hurt or getting clipped or whatever. He knows what to do to win fights, and he's probably one of the best I've seen at doing that. He copped a lot of flack for the Cannonier fight, but he won that fight. He just clearly won that fight, and he knew how to win it and how not to expose himself to any danger. You saw him do that with Vittori. I've seen him do that many, many times where he's won the fight. Like, that's it. Mercy rule if you want, but he's won it. You're not going to win it. Where I think this could be a problem, like where maybe Sean could, I'm not saying he will, but where Sean could probably capitalize on that is if he can win that first round, right? And know that he's probably going to lose the second and third, because Israel has just more tools than him. And I think he will lose those rounds. If Sean can then come back with volume and grappling and maybe take 1 or 2 rounds later in the fight, he could win the ugliest decision you've ever seen in your life. Maybe. I don't see Sean stopping Israel. I really don't. I don't want to sound like a Sean hater because I'm not. I like Sean, but I just don't see him being able to do that. And I think whilst this is true, obviously, that Sean does have a higher output, I just think that either most of the time when we're hitting that 4th or 5th round, the fight's already done. Oh, sorry. I just want to give an honorable mention to Mr. Ray Stone. He says, "Are you a stuntman in the Equalizer movie at Fab?" Thank you, sir. Ray, I know you're new to this, mate, and I know that you've probably got someone to type for you. You don't need to write at Fab because I know that it's at me because it's my show. I just want people to know, if you don't know who Ray Stone is, Google Ray Stone. Ray Stone is the lock for the Redcliffe Dolphins. He's a professional rugby league player and amateur boxer, and he's going to make his way to MMA, and he will make his way to the UFC or ONE FC, and you're going to see big things from Ray Stone. So Google him if you can and get behind him, following him on Instagram, because this man is the truth. Believe it. I'll just say to a few others, Jordan says, keen to hear Sean roast the Aussie crowd. Yes, he will. Jimmy Pisseur says, a lot of stuff, but he says, let's go, man. This is a peach's delight. Thank you. Mitch G says, where is Eli? Eli right now is in Brazil. He's actually training jiu-jitsu in Bahia. He's there with his family. Lydian84, the champion, the greatest ever, says, is it concerning how Sean was parrying the jab against Pereira? I answered that earlier before, Lydian, but because you're such a champion, I will say, is it concerning? Like I said, there's not many people that can exploit that left hook the way that Alex can, because not many people have the length to do it or the speed to capitalize on it. Whitaker probably has the speed to capitalize and hit him with a left hook when he parries inside like that. Alex obviously has the length. So does Israel. But I think that you can throw a lead hand, a lead left, and then the kick after it. And I think Israel's probably going to do something like that. I think Israel's probably going to go southpaw and throw that lead left hand and then throw the kick to the head right after. He'll throw some sort of combination like that. Kabir says, nah, man, it's been a long time since I coach Rob. Long time, years now. JK says, fuck, it's good to have you back, Fabs. It's good to be back, people. It's good to be back. Let's go on and we'll come back to these. Sam, anything you have to say with any of these things?
Nah, just obviously the leg strikes are just a clear advantage for Izzy as well. And also, Ray, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but he wasn't the stuntman in Equalizer, but he was the stuntman in Home and Away. So
I wasn't Home and Away. Yes, I was. Ray Stone says, big fan of Sean. I think the only way for him to win is to apply pressure and turn it into a brawl to take away their kick range. Would love to see a Strickland win. It will be interesting. I think it's hard as well up against the cage. See the clinch and everything, like the Israel's had 100 combat fights, more than 100 combat fights. I don't see Sean showing him anything he hasn't seen already. And in the clinch, Israel's very good and he's got the leverage advantage in the clinch. I don't know that Sean, say for example, they have a submission grappling match, 5-minute submission grappling match, sub only, and you don't have to go to the ground unless the other guy can get you to the ground. You only got 5 minutes. I don't think that Sean would necessarily be able to tap Israel like that. If they had a roll where they like started on their knees or something like that, probably Sean might tap Israel in that scenario. But if they started standing like that, no, because the rules, when you grapple, the rules matter a lot. If people remember that Meta Morris card where Brendan Schaub grappled Cyborg, right? If they had to roll, if they started rolling on their knees, no disrespect to Brendan Schaub, Cyborg would tap him like a typewriter. But the way that the rules were, Brendan Schaub could, and no disrespect to him, because he used the rules that were there for him to use. So that's smart. He could back off. He didn't have to engage. And so when you back off and you don't have to engage and the other guy can't wrestle you, he might not tap him. So what I'm saying is I don't see a differential in their grappling that should Sean get him to the ground, which would be a lot of fucking work, a lot of work. Should Sean get him to the ground, he's just going to be able to tap Israel like that or really ground and pound. I just don't see it. I do not see it. Sorry, you were saying, Sam, with this?
The only other thing I'd add in there too is just in terms of striking defense as well. Strickland has a slight edge, so he's got a 62% striking defense compared to a 57% striking defense of Adesanya.
How are those how are these metrics coming about?
That one's straight from the UFC, but it'd just be the total thrown and compared to how many were actually landed. So defense would be in a either coming back out of range or, in terms of head movement or anything else and to cause your opponent to miss, or also blocking it as well.
I do think that I think that Sean has a really underrated fight IQ and ability to parry and move. I do think that. I don't know that he's got really, in real life, better defense than Israel. I say this in reality because Israel's had over 100 combat fights and he's been stopped twice, and both times by the same guy. So I don't know. And he's fought up at light heavyweight, and he fought Jan Blachowicz, who was the champion, who hits like a fucking truck as well. Never been stopped other than by Alex, only by one man. So I dare say his durability and defense have to be on point. Like that, it doesn't happen by accident. So what do we got next? Is that it for this one, Sam?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, what have we got here? All of these stats, it's only their UFC fights as well. So
right. Yeah. Do you want to hit us for this?
Just in terms of grappling performance, Strickland's attempted 4 times as many takedowns as Adesanya with a 64% accuracy of his takedowns. So while it's not a lot compared to a lot of other fighters as well, just compared to Izzy, he attempts a lot more. He's landed a lot more takedowns as well.
I think if we get, can I go to the next slide? Because I believe that this next slide and these two slides go together, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Because so these, if you want to just talk us through, and then I'll just give my opinion on all these 3 slides in a second.
Yeah, probably the key one is just the middle one of the average ground control per round. So he's got 3 times as much average ground control per round than Adesanya. Averaging 32 seconds per round. So once he's got him down, compared to Adesanya, he's kept him down.
I think, and here we have. Can you talk on this, Sam?
Yeah, like there's probably not too much to tell on this one, just in terms of submission attempts. 3 submission attempts compared to 4 submission attempts. It's really not a lot in total. And then so they're both of them. They're not really they're not hunting those submissions.
I think that what I see with both of them, like I said, I was impressed with Sean. Like Brendan Allen's good. Like Brendan Allen's good on the ground, particularly on the ground. And Brendan Allen couldn't do anything to Sean like that, And Sean has really good grappling, really good awareness. I think that Israel's frame, dude, like if you ever grapple like with a like really long, lanky guys that are strong, like, and their levers make them strong. I'm not talking like I'm kind of tall and skinny, but I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about longer, lankier guys. Their body types are really difficult to deal with, and you need to be. It's just a different movement when you and the stuff that he can do is endemic to him. Like he did stuff. I'll watch him. There's a thing that he does where he sets up a triangle. This I'm talking about Israel. He sets up a triangle on the opponent's left arm generally. So he sets up the triangle, and you see it with Gastelum. He did this. He set up that triangle. But what he's really doing, I mean, if he can finish a triangle, great. But that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to do that triangle and then roll away and get up. And I've seen him do that a few times. So he sets up the triangle on your left arm and rolls over his right shoulder onto his legs and gets up. And he's able to do that because of his lanky build, obviously because he's a good grappler, and obviously because he's very, 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 positionally aware, situational aware, but he's very confident in what he's doing with fighting. He's very confident in him trying and doing that. So I'm just going to go. That was my thing on the grappling. It's just going to answer a few of the questions. Mitch G says, will you be at 293? Nah, I will not. Can you get tickets for free if you're MMA media? I would not go so far as to call Sam and I MMA media at this stage in the game. But hey, you know how you can make us MMA media? You can like and subscribe and share to all your friends and people, anyone you know. Tell them to watch this. You have one of the smartest minds in the planet here with young Sam, who eats raw data, people, every day. Jordan says, after training with Craig Jones, I bet Izzy is tempted to test himself on the ground if Eugene approves. Don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe after training with Craig Jones, you don't want to grapple anymore. And Lydian says, the slides and data are great. Do you prefer we hold questions, or is it okay to ask as you're giving analysis? Please ask anything you want, Lydian, anything you want at all, my friend. Thank you so much for your support. Lydian is big supporter from the start, so really appreciate your anything, Lydian, anything you want. Hit us, Sammy.
Yeah, so just ground strikes. Once they've gone to ground, Strickland's landed, 3 times as many ground strikes. He's attempted 3 times as many ground strikes as well. 1.75 ground strikes on average per round compared to Adesanya's 0.65. So it also, kind of similar before. Once they go to ground, he is hitting more, but it's also depending on your opponent, what your opponent does. Your opponent might be the one to actually perform the takedown, and then you end up striking on the ground as well. So
I think as well with Adesanya, a lot of times when he's striking the opponents on the ground, that's more or less the wrap. Like he's dropped the opponents and he finishes the fight there and then, and so he probably doesn't. There's a lot less strikes. Like the guys already wore the damage on the feet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you're throwing them with power too, then you don't have to throw as many either. So
absolutely. All right, and now we're kind of going to compare a little bit. Obviously, they had Pereira in common, right? But they were very different in their fights. Even in the fight that Israel lost, it was a very different fight to the Sean fight. So we kind of took that fight out, and they both went the distance with Cannonier. So we try to maybe compare those two fights. Are very, very different as well, but at least it gives us a common opponent that went the distance that we can talk about, and gives us some data to look at. Sammy?
Yeah, so across everything, Adesanya has higher accuracy against Cannonier than Strickland had. And we've that's pretty consistent with their total accuracy as well. And then in average landed per round, it's Strickland that has the lead over that. So obviously behind that jab, so strikes to the head and overall strikes from distance, significant strikes. Strickland landed more significant strikes on average per round than Adesanya did. So, yeah, but again, it's behind that jab.
And I think the difference in that particular fight was the fact that Adesanya would hit and wasn't there to be hit with leg kicks, with his jab. Whereas, unfortunately for Sean, he's a little bit more flat-footed, not a little bit, a lot more flat-footed than Israel. So whilst he hit Cannonier a lot, Cannonier was still in that pocket with him and trading. Now, whether or not you disagree with that decision, it was a very close fight. It still wasn't like I thought watching it that Sean won, but I don't really disagree with the decision. It was too close of a fight to give to anyone in that scenario. So whilst he may have landed more shots than Israel on Cannonier, he definitely ate more shots than Israel did. Yes. Anything else on this one, Sam?
No, it's pretty straightforward, I think. Yeah.
Lydian, Fab, pull those sleeves down. Aren't guns illegal in Australia? Has Sean ever had an opponent besides Alex similar to Israel? And has Israel had any similar to Sean? This is interesting. First of all, that's a very bad misconception. Guns are not actually illegal in Australia. You just need to have a permit for them, not like you madmen over there in Arizona where they hand out guns with recess. Now, I actually would like to get into hunting soon anyways. So thank you for that. Has Sean ever had an opponent besides Alex similar to Israel? I don't think he was similar to not similar to Israel, but if you can say he was like a kind of kickboxer. No, the only one that I would say that was kind of similar to Israel, who I think will one day be champion, was Imavov. He's not similar to Israel, but he's a good striker with good distance, obviously not as experienced, obviously not as good as Israel. But I feel that Sean addressed certain things from the Cannonier fight against Imavov. Against Abus, I don't think is the same. That guy just hits the accelerator in the first round. Very similar to the methodical, very, very dissimilar to the methodical approach of Israel. Like Sean, I don't think he's fought guys like Sean. Has anyone, except in a way, Alex, in that he kind of stands a little bit square, and Sean might impose, like I said, and I think he should, and he's trained with Alex, that calf kick from a square stance where you're not giving a tell. I think that he might do that. You know what I mean? But no, I don't think they fought similar guys like that from memory. I can't say to you. I think, though, Israel would probably have come closer to fighting a lot more guys like Sean off the top of... I'm going to say yes for Israel, actually. I changed my mind. I'm going to say yes in that Israel's had way too many K1 fights with guys that are going to come in and try and box him up and leg kick him. But they're not similar to Sean. I'm just saying that he's had much more stand-up heavy fights than Sean would have faced guys like Israel, you know. Jason Wilness boxed with him and kicked his legs, boxed with him and kicked his legs. It was a very close fight. Some people think Israel won. Other people think Wilness won. Wilness won. And in that, like those kind of fighters, maybe you could say, you know, so in that scenario, I'd say yes. But I think that he's fought much more guys like that than Sean has. Having said that, I think that Sean trains with Alex from time to time and with Yusri Balgarui, who is Israel's height and also a former opponent of both Israel and Alex. And I think he's going to fight in the Contender Series soon. I think we're talking about him. He's very good. He doesn't have Alex's power and he doesn't have Israel's finesse, but he's still very, very good. You know, he's fought close fights with both of them. So that's my take on that. Sean, I think, while he hasn't had the common opponents, has had exposure to those kinds of fighters. Thoughts, Sam, or on anything like this? You want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah, probably the next one. It's probably a bit more insightful because it breaks it down by round. So he's got a higher accuracy against Cannonier compared to Sean. And really, when you look at total strikes, he's 10 to 20% higher accuracy as well. And similarly with, significant strikes too. So, and a lot of that is driven by his leg strikes and strikes to the body as well. Whereas you can see Strickland really, he only kicked in the third round, and there was only about 2 kicks against Cannonier.
And Adesanya, again, was behind a very heavy leg kicking game that he was able to pull away, I think, from Cannonier and not take much damage himself. So, this is an interesting point. Anything else on this, Sam, before we go to the next slide?
Only that before in all the other slides, we saw Strickland pulling away in head strikes, whereas it really wasn't the case with this one either. So compared to Cannonier, they're very similar, accuracy in head strikes and that as well.
So Sean didn't land any more head strikes than Israel did, but Israel landed way more kicks.
Oh, this is just in terms of accuracy. So in the next one, you'll see a lot more head strikes, but just the percentage that was actually accurate, they're very similar. So
this is the next one?
Yeah. And here you can see that, again, similar patterns to before for Strickland, that he builds and lands more and more each round. And, it's behind those head strikes. So behind that jab, he's landing more and more every round.
And that was evident in the Cannonier fight as well?
Well, this is the Cannonier fight.
No, I'm saying that was evident, like in the Cannonier fight. Yep. Like that's evident in this fight as well. Like, so it's not just on an average of like all the fights. In like specifically this fight, you see he like there's quite a marked build-up if you look at Adesanya and Sean. There's quite a big difference in how much Sean's output is much higher than Israel's. But I do think that that's also due to the fact that by the time the 4th and 5th come, in a lot of the fights, Israel's had them won. In like a lot of the fights that you've seen him in the title, like unless the opponent knocks him out, it's done. And so you see people holding Israel against the wall. You see people trying to take Israel down, and Israel's kind of allowing it and not getting off the cage as well, if that makes sense, because he's safe there. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to risk getting caught or anything. He's smart. He's very smart with how he does it. Anything else on this, Sam?
No, just the total strikes. They're not that far off in total strikes, and Izzy actually builds in total strikes from the first, second, third, fourth round. So very similar kind of profile to Strickland, but significant strikes, head strikes. Strickland actually pulls away.
All right. Just before I go on to the next thing, it says here, Lydian asks, is any of Kelvin Gastelum's success in stand-up against Israel still relevant, or has Israel improved too much for any of that to be relevant with a fight with Strickland? I don't think, this is honest truth, like I think a lot of people watched that fight with Gastelum and they saw the success that Gastelum had with Israel and they stand behind that. But if Gastelum's never, at that point, up until that point in his career, Gastelum had dropped every single middleweight he'd fought up until that point in his career. No one's ever stopped Gastelum. But in that fight with Israel, if he wasn't Gastelum, man, that guy would be dead. Like Israel really, really fucked him up with some big shots. And I don't think that Gastelum has ever really been the same after that fight. He really took damage in that fight, I think, more than in probably all his fights combined. So whilst he had like glimpses of success in that fight against Israel. I I I think he took a massive beating as well. Like while he had some success, he took a big beating. Like Israel really, like really hurt him. More than I'd ever seen and have ever seen him actually hurt. That's my take on that. He did some good things, but it doesn't surprise me, especially when you look at some of this data and you look at how Israel starts fights in general as an average. And you see it, he starts off a little bit slower, and Kelvin, I'm pretty sure, had dropped up until that point every single middleweight he fought in the first round. So the way that weighed up at the start was kind of like made sense, and then he threw a fucking high kick on the tallest guy in the division and connected. I don't those things were, I don't think they could be repeated like that. I think they were just happenstance at that time. Anything else, Sam?
No, not really. That kind of takes us to the end of Izzy and the Strickland comparisons. But so for this, yeah.
No, I was just going to say why I've pulled up the age thing. We're going to talk a little bit on it. I don't think that Israel is past it by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a thing where it's an interesting time because Israel went from being like one of the younger guys in the division, and he went from being one of the younger guys in the division to now becoming one of the older, like more than middle of the pack, more than middle age, you know what I mean? And so this is a thing where sometimes we watch these guys that are so dominant, and you have to keep your eye on the age, because at some point there's going to be a younger challenger, like a younger challenger. I don't think it's Sean. I don't think it's going to be Sean, but it is going to be someone that's going to be coming into their prime as Izzy's leaving his. And there's different types of fighters, right? There's like a guy like Alex Pereira can probably fight a little bit longer because his style is not necessarily massively reliant on reflexes and movement and just being in and out by millimeters. Those guys that rely on reflexes and movement, like in Israel or other fighters like that, a lot of the times, not always, they slow down a little bit, and either they have to change their game dramatically, or they peak a little bit earlier. And I think you have to understand that that's going to be a factor at some point. That's why we talk a little bit about age. Guys like Alex that hit hard, like his game's built around hitting you so hard that you have to build your game around avoiding that. So it's different with the longevity. Guys that are mauling kind of grappler guys can probably go a little bit further as well, because they can grab you, take you down, hold you down. Strength is like the last component to leave you. But having said that, we're going to talk a little bit about age now. I just wanted to say why I was bringing this up here. Sam, if you want to just take us through it.
Yeah, so this is across all UFC fights. It's not looking at anyone in particular. Just looking at the difference in age between each opponent. So that red bar is all the fights where the fighters have the exact same age. And you can see there's a slight shift to the left of that, which really shows that obviously younger fighters, if they're 1, 2, 3 years younger than their opponent, have a slight edge. And obviously it's only factoring in age. We're not looking at anything else, but it's just one of the factors between the fighters.
And I think when you look at it, and we'll go to the next, we can go to the next slide, because the next slide is kind of this one as well. Am I correct? We can always come back. Yeah. I think when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because you have that 2-3 years difference is that very perfect time when a guy in his late 20s, early 30s fights a guy that's just coming out of his prime, and that's where that meets. And so I think that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'm going to talk about something in a second. So, Sam, if you want to continue.
Yeah, so just on the left, we've just bucketed the age groups of each fighter and the differential for who they're fighting against. So most of the wins come from fighters in the 20 to 30 age bracket. There's that's pretty obvious. It's also pretty intuitive. That's a fighter's age. And then most of their wins come from opponents that are slightly older than them as well. But it is quite interesting for those fighters in the 31 to 35 age bracket. Most of their wins occur when they are slightly older than their opponent. But
which makes sense.
On who they're fighting.
Which makes sense.
Made it to age bracket, they're generally going to be pretty good fighters as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like the guys that are in the 31 to 35, they're hitting their peak. And so those guys they have experience on their side, they have their bodies at their strongest, etc. And it's really about, at that point, it's who can stay in there the longest, who can have old mind in a young body the longest. And the 26 to 30-year-olds, they are going to be at their physical peak. So they're the guys that come through, and they're the changing of the guard, if you speak. Why this is interesting? This is not a secret. There are guys on steroids in the UFC. So this, right, graph, my opinion, without being a mathematician, and you can tell me, Sam, if I'm wrong, this graph, if you were to take out just guys that have been caught, I'm not even talking about guys that haven't been caught. Because, people say, oh, fighters peaking at 37, 38 years old, 36 years old now, 37. That's not because of anything crazy, the average age, blah, blah. I'm not saying that there aren't outliers. There are some outliers. But if you were to take out any of the guys that are winning fights in their late 30s and early 40s that have been caught taking steroids by USADA, just the ones that have been caught, right, that would change the average age of the fighters and their wins by a great margin, and it'd shift it to the left, to a younger peak. Am I correct with that, Sammy?
Oh yeah, totally. Like I don't know what the volume of fighters.
I think it's 117 fighters. I'm pretty sure it's something like that have been caught taking steroids, and I don't know how many of those are over 35, but a lot of them. I don't think, to be honest with you, I can't think of too many guys that have fought like later into their career that have like had significant careers that weren't even caught. They weren't caught like on the way up, but they were caught at some point. And you can tell me about tainted supplements and all the shit you want. Like it's beyond me how the tainted supplements are like the tainted supplements are always found by some dude that looks like a fucking Ninja Turtle. It's never by my emaciated piss weak cousin that couldn't make the fucking netball team. My apologies, Raphael. I'm not going to bring you up ever again. But yeah, like it's not him. He doesn't find fucking tainted supplements. It's the guys that least need it. So if you took tainted supplements and you didn't know, it's fair enough. I'm not saying that you knew that you took it. All I'm saying is that the physiological benefits of taking the substance is still going to be in your system, whether you knew it or not. I hope people understand that. So I think it would dramatically decrease that. There are outliers. For Ray, Ray asks, what would you say is the prime age for a fighter? It still sits, well, you see it here, the 26 to 30 age, but I'd say that the prime sits anywhere between 26 to 33, 34, maybe 35 on the outside. And then after that, there's a difference, because I'm not saying that that there aren't outliers that are in the prime. And I'm not saying, you got to understand, some people might not be in their prime, but they have enough experience to beat the crop that's coming through. Like I don't see anyone at featherweight beating Volkanovski. You know what I mean? And whether he's in his prime or not, it doesn't even fucking matter. I just think that who he is today beats the next featherweight. I'm not discounting Tapuria. I just can't see him beating Alex. That's all. These characters here that are 46, 47 and have 100% wins are not natural. I can fucking assure you. I don't even have to know. DJ says, what about if you looked at only the lighter weight classes? What do you mean by that? What do you mean if we looked at only the lighter weight classes? Can you elaborate on your question? Sorry, mate. Sorry, Sam. So going back to this, let's have we discussed everything that we were discussing?
Yeah. Like just the right hand side, it says percentage of wins and losses, wins versus losses by age. So yeah, you're quite right. 47 and 48, 46 and 47-year-olds have some great performance in the UFC. But yeah, they're really just a couple of outliers in that. But you can see that declining trends in wins as fighters get older as well.
What do you think about the odds around this fight? Do you think these odds are good? These odds are accurate?
I'll
tell you what the odds are. Adesanya is a minus 460. Says this, UFC 293 odds indicate a strong chance that Adesanya minus 460, so that's like almost 5 to 1, will defeat Strickland as a plus 380 underdog. This will be Strickland's third fight this year with back-to-back wins in 2023. Thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of factors come into play. I don't know if it's if I'd put it 4 or 5 to 1 odds, but might just be personal preferences as well. But I think Strickland does have a good jab in that too. So he's obviously used that well in the past, and he lands high, he lands a lot, he lands a lot each round as the fight progresses as well. So I don't think he can be discounted. And then I think also it's not like he's only he's fought some big names in the past as well. So Izzy's fought a lot, but yeah, Strickland hasn't just fought bums either. So
I think the problem that I see is that I think that these odds are I actually think these odds are right. Like, I don't see the problem for Strickland. I think that everything that he has to do to win kind of falls into what Israel wants. If you pressure Israel's a counter striker and he wants to hit you. If you stay out and you're too slow coming in, he's going to pick you apart. And Sean doesn't have the X factors, or at least hasn't shown those wrinkles in his fights at this point to be able to really worry Israel. And I don't think that he has the offensive wrestling tools and grappling tools to really be able to impose them on Israel for 5 rounds. I don't see him being able to do that. I think that Israel's going to win this one. I don't see a clear path to victory for Sean. Outside of him, like I said, winning the first round, I don't see him being able to do that. I don't see him. If he wins the first round, for instance, and then he's able to increase his volume, even if he's not hitting Israel, if he's able to just throw kicks to keep Israel busy and continue, if he's able to do that, he might squeeze out some sort of decision, mix in a takedown there somewhere. But this is hard. That's why I think those odds are good. I do think those odds are right. Matt Newman says, where would people like Rod Tang, who is only 26, factor into this? It's just based on rough entry into professional MMA at age 22, 23. Rod Tang is not a good example, dude, because Rod Tang would be the outlier of all fucking outliers. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are people that are outliers. So it's hard to, when you're talking, correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, when you're talking about statistics, you're talking about people, we're talking about 1,000 people and getting, before I butcher this, after I butcher this, Sammy, if you could fix it, but you're talking about like 1,000 people and then working that out. And that age is going to come out right most of the time. But there's going to be outliers, and Rod Tang is a fucking outlier. And he's also not just, he's entering MMA, but he's got a huge, like, striking pedigree. And also on top of that, when you have someone whose skill level, like Alex or somebody else, their striking level, whilst they might not be at their peak, say, for example, Alex's striking might not be at his peak anymore, but it's way better than nearly everyone else is going to fight. So it's different. You know what I mean? He might not be able to last in striking anymore if he was to fight in K1 now with young kickboxers, etc., or Glory. I'm not saying that's the case. So when you say like this particular person or that particular person, it's not statistics don't work like that. I can't say, oh, like this, you know what I mean? Sammy, can you give a better answer than that? Because I don't know if I butchered it.
No, yours is good. I think it's yeah, you're right. We're looking at 7,000 odd fights. Over the course of every fight in the UFC that's ever held. So you're going to find outliers everywhere as well.
Yeah, that's why it's called lies, dirty lies, and statistics. You know, so it's not going to apply to everyone. We got a mate. Shout out to Joel Forbes, who should be dead. He should be dead. He smoked and drank and surfed and did all sorts of crazy shit. He's had his head broken open by a surfboard. He drowned, dead. He died when he was 12 years old. Fucking had his like this hole in his skull, like proper hole in his skull, and it was soft, like it could touch his brain, and he had to wear a helmet to school. And he's not dead. Like if you were to do that to 1,000 people, statistically, the chances of you surviving would be fucking zero, you know. But he's still alive and kicking. So it's not a really accurate thing. Lydian says, I'm going to be in 39 in a couple of weeks. How soon do I need to get on roids to keep the local kids off my lawn? Just don't talk about hitting kids, mate, and let Ian Gary catch you saying that kind of shit, because you'll get a beating that you don't want to fucking deal with, mate. I'm telling you. You will get your legs kicked out from under you the way Neil Magny did. No disrespect to either one of those athletes. It was just amused me how angry Ian got about that. DJ says, athletes in the heavier weight classes usually fight later in their career. Jan Blachowicz is 40 and Tony Ferguson is 39, but they're both at different stages in their careers. That's, again, there's a lot of factors going into that. I think that there's not the talent pool is not as deep. There's just not as many people walking around that are 130 kilos, and then you have to you dwindle that further to say, is there as many people walking around at 130 kilos that want to fight? So that's different again, you know, and not all the heavyweights. Just saying this to you, not all the heavyweights are clean that are still fighting in the things. Like the current champion has failed tests like 4 times or something. If like, you know, that kind of proves a point. Matt Newman says, and that's not me talking out of school. Like that's like he actually tested positive. I don't even know what else to say to that. Matt Newman says, who has Strickland fought with a similar reach to Izzy and been able to impose his jab on? I think the closest that I could say about that was, like I said, Imavov. He's like 6'3", and he has a boxing heavy style. And Strickland got the better of that fight, but Imavov's not Israel. You know, I think that one day Imavov could be champion, but I don't think it's right now. Ray Stone says, Joel, the king of Coaldale. Yes, he is the king of Coaldale. And Lydian says, oh, fuck. Anything else, Sam, you want to touch on?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Guys, we are going to close this down. We aim to make these presentations better each and every single time. Please, guys, please like and subscribe and share this content. If you like it, we want to be able to get more out there. It's hard to get Sam to do these. Sam puts all the work, all the mental labor behind to be able to get us to do this. We got to try and supplement his $750,000 a year income. It's difficult, guys, so we do need as many likes and subscribers as possible. Lydian says, in Strickland's post-fight comments after Abus, he downplayed his power and said Abus just wanted out. Probably was being facetious, but if he can't show threat, seems like a fight with Izzy will be rough. Yeah, I take anything that any of them say with a grain of salt. There's like I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I can't say what he meant by that, what he didn't mean by that, what he thought, what he didn't think. I think that Abus pushed all in that first round and could have got Sean out of there, maybe. And then if he had clipped him straight on the chin, then everyone would be talking about this crazy Dagestani with fucking crazy power that just went out there and put Sean out quicker than Alex did. You know what I mean? Like, but he didn't, and he gassed out, and then Sean bashed him. You know, and that happens. That's the game. And I think that's a wrap for us, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Please let us know what you think and who you think is going to win. Please let us know in the comments. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Please get on Instagram, guys, and follow Ray Stone. He will be in the UFC or in ONE FC in the very near future, so keep your eyes on him. He's a professional rugby league player for the Dolphins in Australia, in Redcliffe Dolphins. So please keep your eye on that man. Lydian, again, thank you so much. Lydian, you're a fucking champion, mate. Thank you so much. Lydian says, Sam killed it. Awesome job. Love the data and the visuals. Glad I was able to catch it live. Sam is the fucking man, mate. I'm telling you. See, if you knew who this guy was in real life, he's kind of like what they based the movie Beautiful Mind on. You don't understand the stuff this guy can do with just a maths textbook and a eraser and a pencil, a HB lead pencil. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Sam, thanks so much, man. And thank you for your time. Everyone, I'm sure, really appreciates your data and analytics.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lydian, and to all the crew. Please catch us. We're going to hopefully be able to put up a new one very, very soon. And follow us on our live chats as well when we watch the fights. Thank you, guys. Take care.